She would sneak under the bed to hide when she hears the footsteps of her husband approaching the door. I should have told you the entire truth from the beginning. Seun began to take off his clothes. When he pulled off his boxers, standing bare before Yetunde, her breath ceased. She almost choked and gasped for air. She could not believe what it was that Seun had been hiding all this while. The reason he kept rejecting all the previous girls before her. What type of a manhood was this? It was not one, but two extra large oversized manhoods. One of it was as fat as a folded fist. Yetunde almost screamed, but held her mouth. Oh, that's why he needs me here to avoid any casualties. I'm sure you understand now, young lady, Mrs. Osibanjo said. My son makes use of his two organs, and you have to endure until he releases from both. That's the only way he can be satisfied. You have to take it so you can bear me children. He has a very high drive. I know all we had to go through after the incident the last time, and I don't want it to repeat itself. That's why I am here. Seun, carry on. I can tell you when to stop. You guys can go ahead. Just act like I am not here. I won't disturb you. Seun immediately climbed the bed and started crawling towards Yetunde. But Yetunde really was not having any of it. First, she was still aghast by the enormous sizes of her husband's manhoods, a secret he kept from her until their wedding night. Second, the fact that he was insisting his mother be present on such a sensitive and psychological moment for her. And thirdly, the fact that he never asked for or considered her opinion in all of this. How she felt or what she was feeling, what was going through her mind. He was plainly treating her like an object to be told what to do. Yetunde was angered to the brim. Still in her state of shock, she stood her ground and insisted his mother must leave the room to them. Seun was her husband and they can sort out their sexual intercourse themselves. They did not need her presence, neither her mental support to do that. But his mother got upset. I will not leave from here. I told you I don't want any casualties, she scoffed. What rubbish casualties are you talking about, mother? With all due respect, ma, you have to leave. This is completely absurd. Oda, he has married you into my family now, so you can speak English to me. Mother, please, just leave. I need to talk to my husband. He is my son first, before he became your husband, and I must protect him at all costs. I have been doing so before you, and I will do so after you. I arranged all this from the very start, didn't I? I have told you I would not move from here. And so, that was how Yetunde, Seun and Mrs. Osibanjo all sat quietly inside the matrimonial bedroom that fateful honeymoon night. After an hour, the air grew so thick one could almost cut through it with a knife. No one was saying anything. Mrs. Osibanjo was being stubborn, refusing to leave. Yetunde had vowed in her heart nothing was happening that night if her husband does not do as she wants. She was still thinking of how she would take what her husband was carrying. She had been celibate for years. She was afraid. Seun, on the other hand, was dying with fear. He kept reminiscing the incident of the previous time he was with a woman called Sandra and what happened to her after. While he was still young, he hoped his wife understood why his mother needed to be around during their intercourse. When it was almost 3 a.m. in the morning, Seun had to plead with his mother to leave. Yetunde had insisted she won't involve herself if his mother stayed, so Mrs. Osibanjo had to leave eventually. I will be at the next room. Be careful and remember all I taught you. Don't get carried away and know when to stop if she is in too much pain. She turned around and gave Yetunde a bizarre and disgusted look before leaving the room. Now that she was gone, Yetunde now has to prove to her husband that she could take his two extra large manhoods and that she did not need his mother's presence to do so. Seun started crawling towards his wife yet again, and Yetunde held her breath tightly, holding onto the sheets of their bed like she was holding onto her life. The kind of pain she felt was not normal. Though she had prepared her body for the big night, her husband was just too big. She felt like a knife was tearing her private area. But she held on tightly, bearing the pain. Seun made sure that he was extra careful. Should I stop? Does it hurt? He kept asking her every 2 seconds. Yetunde just kept nodding for him to continue. She could not speak because of the pain, but she also wanted to please her husband. By the time he was done using his first rod, Yetunde was already exhausted and in so much pain. Her husband quickly began all over again, making use of his second rod. Seun was unable to bring himself to his highest state of pleasure due to the awkwardness of the whole situation. The unsatisfactory friction between the both of them went on till it was morning. By the time Yetunde woke up the next morning, Seun was not in bed. He had left early because he could not face his wife due to shame. Yetunde sat up on the bed. She felt like she had just been defiled. She did not feel like she had just made love to her husband. She wasn't sure if he himself was satisfied with what they had done together that morning. As she was struggling with the pain from within, a nurse walked into the room with medics to clean her up and give her painkillers. After the nurse left, Yetunde thought to herself, what have I gotten myself into? I will not be able to ever satisfy the man I loved and married. Why didn't he tell me? We could have found a solution. We could have devised a means to sort it out. I am not just an object. I am his wife, she cried sadly. After cleaning herself up in the bathroom, she dressed up and ran to Naomi's house. She narrated all the shocking events that happened on her wedding night to her friend. She could not stop her tears. He has two giant manhoods. They are too big for me, Naomi. That's why he was hiding. No girl can take it. That's why he wasn't sleeping around. Her friend consoled her. What are you going to do now? Naomi said. I don't know. I am in so much pain. What if he starts cheating on me because I cannot satisfy him? What do I do? You guys will find a way, Naomi said to her friend Yetunde. But his mother has to stay out of it at least. You will sort it out. Don't cry, Yetunde. For the rest of the day, Yetunde cried her eyes out due to the injury and pain she was feeling from her private area and the horrible honeymoon she just experienced. By evening, when Yetunde returned from Naomi's place, she met Mrs. Osibanjo in the living room. Her mother-in-law asked her where she was coming from. I went to see a friend. What friend? Mrs. Osibanjo snapped. I hope you are aware you cannot share anything you found here about my son or this family with anyone else. That is the reason you signed the confidentiality contract. You are now a part of this family, and the name and prestige of my family is the most important thing to me and this household. Do you understand me clearly? Yetunde, if I find out that you are sharing or you shared any personal information about my son or me to anyone else, I will sue you, young lady, and you will spend the rest of your life in jail. That justice you seek to get for yourself and your parents' properties, I don't think you will ever see that dream come true anymore. Do you understand me? Yes, ma, Yetunde replied. As she went upstairs, she was shocked at the kind of treatment she was receiving from her mother-in-law, who was supposed to help her. And so, as the days turned into weeks, Seun would hold on for his wife to heal for weeks after every section. But as time went on, when the days for intimacy came, whenever night falls, Yetunde would dread the coming moment. She would sneak under the bed to hide. When she hears the footsteps of her husband approaching the door, Seun would come into the room looking for his wife everywhere. Sometimes he would find her under the bed, hiding away from him. This became a big issue in their marriage. Seun knew that Yetunde would only pretend to gain pleasure from whatever they were doing as husband and wife, but it was a torment for her. She always needed medical attention after each section. And so, they began to grow apart as the days passed. They were not connecting physically, and Seun knew Yetunde could not give him the satisfaction he craved for. All she does is pretend to gain pleasure and nod her head in agreement to whatever he asks. Soon, the cracks in their marriage began to show. They grew very distant. One particular night, Yetunde rejected Seun's advances towards her. She said she was tired that night. Unknown to her, Seun complained about the whole situation to his mother to see if she could help solve their problem. But while he was away, Mrs. Osibanjo rained hell on Yetunde. What are you feeling like? Are you not a woman? She asked Yetunde angrily. What is there that you cannot take? Are other girls like you not taking it? If others can, then why can't she? You are being too lazy for my son, Mrs. Osibanjo screamed. Yetunde in her shock and anger replied, Not once, mother, did you ever ask me how I am feeling myself. You only send the nurse to check up on me. All you care about is your son. Maybe you should have married the other girls for him and just left me out of this to start with. Before she could finish her statement, Mrs. Osibanjo gave her a resounding slap on her cheeks. How dare you talk back at me, you filth? You should be grateful I accepted a thing like you into my family to start with. You that doesn't even have a root to call your own. Your own relatives threw you out. Don't think I can't do the same. Rubbish. You better find a way to be a woman and stop lazing around here. I did not marry you to be a statue, eating and enjoying my wealth for free. It is tit for tat. That is my principle, and I need my grandchildren. You are acting like you would not still give birth through those tiny holes of yours. Nonsense. Get away from my presence before I land you another slap. Yetunde went up to her room crying. She truly loved her husband Seun, but this torment was now too much. They were not compatible sexually, they were not on the same scale, and to make things worse, his mother was giving her hell. And the case? She could kiss it goodbye. Mrs. Osibanjo would not take up her case if she doesn't bear Seun a child first. She was conflicted, not knowing what to do next. Yetunde tried to start making more efforts to please her husband. She would spend hours in the kitchen, cooking and preparing nice meals, but she would wait and wait at an empty table. Seun would not touch her food. Most times, she starved herself, waiting for his return so they could eat together. She would sleep off on the dining, but when Seun returns home, he would go straight to the bedroom to sleep. Yetunde knew something was up. It was a year now, and they were not the happy family she had hoped to have. Seun had totally stopped coming to her at all. He only brought her flowers and nice things. Yetunde suspected something was wrong. In the recent days, her husband was always talking to and chatting with one Arsenal fan on the phone all the time, but it became too frequent. Yetunde wondered if her husband was replacing her with his male friends just to forget about their sexual disconnections. One day, while Seun was having his shower, his phone began to ring, and again it was Arsenal fan. The phone did not stop ringing, so Yetunde decided to take the call, only to hear a female's voice. The lady on the other hand quickly hung up. Yetunde decided to unlock her husband's phone and read through their messages. It was then that she found out that Seun had finally found a prostitute that could accommodate his sizes without an issue, and they had been having an affair. From the messages, she found that the lady was found by her mother-in-law for Seun, and she was always there to supervise them during intercourse. Yetunde could not believe what she was reading. When Seun came out of the bathroom preparing to sleep, all hell broke loose. Yetunde started smashing and scattering everything in the room. Screaming, she said, "Explain to me, who is Arsenal fan?" "Ah, Seun, so you have been cheating on me with another woman all this while. Where is the justice you promised me, Seun? I wasn't good enough for you. Tell me, she said as she cried bitterly. I am sorry, Yetunde, but it's not my fault. What do you really want me to do? I have to be a man, and I have to bear children no matter the size I came with." "Then why didn't you marry the prostitute instead?" Yetunde screamed. They argued all night until they were both exhausted. "I am sorry," Seun said to his wife. "It was all my fault. I should never have brought you into this. I should have told you the entire truth from the beginning." "Tell me now. I want to know now," Yetunde said. Seun started. "Many years ago, when I started to mature, I found out that I was different from my mates. While others had one pair of manhood, I had two. And I was growing faster and differently till it got to this stage. In 2015, I had my first sexual intercourse with my first girlfriend, Sandra. We were both very young then and did not know what we were doing. But she was a sickle cell and she died in the process because of my overly high sex drive. I made use of my two organs during our intercourse. It was too much pain for her. I was going too fast. I was reckless. She was pleading for me to stop, but I had been taught by my friends that if a woman is saying stop during intercourse, she actually means that she wants you to continue and go harder. So I started going harder," he said, bowing his head in shame. And then she suddenly stopped responding. She died in my arms before the ambulance could come in. Yetunde gasped for air as Seun continued. "My mom, being a judge, covered up the case and framed it to be an accident on the girl's part. This is the big secret I share with my mom. You are the only person hearing about it. I didn't know what I was doing. I was careless and she died. That was the reason my mom wanted to be present on our first night, to avoid the same tragedy from repeating itself. I did not want anything bad to happen to you. I am sleeping with the prostitute because I don't want to continue hurting you. I see the pain in your eyes. I see it. Don't think you can hide it, that I don't see it. I do. I blame myself for everything and I don't want to continue hurting you, he said as he sobbed bitterly. Yetunde fell to the floor in tears. I am also troubling my mom to take up your case, Seun continued. She promised to do so after the marriage, but she has refused to. She said she would only do it if I give her a grandchild, and that is why I agreed to start dating the new girl she brought, because I don't want you to lose out completely in this marriage. Yetunde held her husband and cried, I will try. I am trying. Please. I will try, Seun. Please stop cheating on me. Our marriage would not fail. We will make it work, I promise you, and we will get justice for myself and my parents. Everything will be fine. You don't have to do that anymore, she pleaded with her husband that night. The next day, she went to her friend Naomi. She told her everything. Naomi told Yetunde to pull herself together. She can't lose both her education, the marriage, and her parents' properties all together. Look at me now, Naomi said. I am almost finishing my degree. I am already a practicing doctor. If you had not gotten married so soon, maybe if you had waited to find out the truth before marrying Seun, then maybe by now you would have been called to bar and you could have taken up the case yourself. What I am saying, my friend, is that you have to remember why we came here to the city in the first place, and that is the most important goal. Either you leave that marriage and forget about that love for good and go through with your law school, become the lawyer you wanted to be and take back what was stolen from you, or stay living the rest of your life trying to please a man and his ungrateful mother. But I love my husband, Yetunde said. You have to make a choice, Yetunde, Naomi said to her. Yetunde returned home. That night, she sat in her room on her bed. She was torn between choosing her marriage or her revenge against her family. If Seun continues cheating and gets the other lady pregnant, then she doesn't even have a marriage to save to begin with. She will lose him and the marriage, and if she decides to choose her revenge, then she would have to fight that battle all alone, starting her life all over again. She was still lost in her thoughts when she heard the doorknob wriggle. It was her husband, Seun. She had promised him that she would try so they could conceive. So he was coming to her once again after so many months. It was going to be yet another night of excruciating pain for Yetunde. As time went on, over the months, Yetunde's pretense in bed would not repair her breaking marriage. One fateful day, as she was walking into her matrimonial bedroom, she froze at the door when she saw her husband Seun and an unknown woman together inside their bedroom. They didn't seem to care that she was standing there, but continued with their business. Yetunde went back to her room crying. She was unable to confront her husband because she knew she had not been doing her job and fulfilling her sexual duties as a wife. The next day, Mrs. Osibanjo officially introduced Alake, the prostitute lady Seun had been messing with, to Yetunde. She will be living with us from now on, Mrs. Osibanjo said to Yetunde. She's here to do what you can't for my son, and if she bears him a child, you will become a ceremonial wife in this house, Mrs. Osibanjo concluded. From then on, Yetunde became a ceremonial wife to her husband Seun. She was presented as his wife before guests and on special occasions. Seun did not disagree with his mother's proposal on bringing in Alake the prostitute into his home because he was indebted to his mother for helping him close and cover up his accidental murder case from years ago. Although he had no intention of hurting his wife, his hands were tied and he was more accountable to his mother than his wife Yetunde. So he had to play along and hoped that Yetunde would understand the situation. It wasn't up to a month and Alake completely took over Yetunde's matrimonial home. She stayed idle in the house all day watching TV while Yetunde cooked and cleaned. She did nothing. She would rain insults and torment on Yetunde whenever Seun was not around, threatening her that she would soon take over her marriage 100% the moment she takes in. Life became hell for Yetunde inside her marriage. She was a prisoner. She wasn't allowed to go back to complete her law degree. Mrs. Osibanjo made sure of that. She was used like a maid to please everyone in the house, and that was it. She felt useless. She felt like a failure. It was then that she spoke to Naomi, her friend, about all that was going on, not fearing all the threats she had received from her mother-in-law. Naomi encouraged her to fight for herself and not give up her dreams and goals, all for a cheating husband. Yetunde secretly enrolled in an online school. While others were sleeping at midnight, she would sneak into the study room and run her classes, studying all through the night, making sure that she was not caught. A year passed and Alake was still not able to conceive for Seun, but by then, Yetunde had finished her 1-year online course and came out in flying colors. She was called to bar to serve as a full-time lawyer. Yetunde secretly left her home and returned with her friend Naomi back to her village. They marched to Yetunde's parents' house that was now being occupied by her wicked uncle and auntie. Her relatives were shocked to see Yetunde, the small child they threw out, returned back as an educated and sophisticated woman who knew her rights and came to drag head-to-head with them over the properties of their late brother. Still, they refused to give it up. Yetunde took them straight to court, where she was the jury for her own defense. Fear and shame gripped Yetunde's uncle on seeing how far Yetunde had gone. They lost the case to Yetunde in court and forcefully had to give back all her inheritance. After winning the case, Yetunde did not return back to the city to continue living with Seun. After a year, Seun came looking for Yetunde in her mansion. He went on his knees begging his wife to come back home. It turned out the prostitute Alake had removed her womb and could never bear children. Neither Seun nor his mother was aware of this. The prostitute had played a smart one on Mrs. Osibanjo, and now she wanted Yetunde back as her daughter-in-law. Seun pleaded and pleaded with Yetunde, but she refused and said she would never be able to forgive him for his betrayal of their marriage. And so, Seun had to return back home to his mother. He loved his wife, but the damage was already done. In the years that followed, Yetunde picked up a new cause in her life as a renowned lawyer. She fought for the abused and deprived girls in the village of Ikure. She became a voice for the young girls and old women before the law, and fought for thousands who could not fight for themselves. Yetunde found purpose in her life after all she had been through in the hands of men, and she lived happily ever after. The lesson to be learned from this story is always check the package before you buy it. Thank you so much for watching. Please share your thoughts on this story in the comments section. Leave a like, share and subscribe for more. I apologize for having to delete most of my former videos due to YouTube policies. I hope that my wonderful viewers understand. Thank you for staying with me up till this time, and until we meet again, stay blessed and I'll see you on our next story.